say I have, 200,000 to invest.
I have $10,000. I have $100,000. I have $1 million. What should I do with my money?
What would you recommend to me?
I would say study. There's advantages between silver, gold, and Bitcoin, and you've got to know the advantages and disadvantages. So, it doesn't cost anybody to study, but it's the most important thing you can do. So that's why I recommend listening to Stanford. The silver, I'm bullish on it because you can afford it today. It's $25. It's 50% of its all-time high. It hasn't moved. And green steel is coming in. That's why I would buy it. But it doesn't mean you should.
So if you had the $200,000, which obviously you do, your biggest chunk would be in silver right now of those three?
I've already taken my positions. I've already accumulated. So I bought Bitcoin when prices were low, but I had to understand Bitcoin before I got into it. And I bought my first gold coin in 1972 in Hong Kong, a Kruger N. And I bought my first silver coin in 1964 when I was 17.
Wow.
I've been in it for a long time, and that's why I'm not bullish. I just love it. I am a capitalist. I am a hard money. I am not into socialist economics, which is Keynesian.
There was God's money, which is gold and silver, and then people's money, which is Bitcoin or cyber cryptocurrencies. And I really think it's important, especially for old guys like me, to understand the crypto world, because that's the world that's coming into view right now. And us real estate and gold guys are kind of being phased out. So in many ways, there's this battle on today between the old guys and young guys. And the old guys have got their heads up their butts, like Buffett is anti-gold and anti-crypto. I'm going, give me a break. How can you be anti-something? You got to know the pros and cons of everything. And he doesn't have to worry. He makes a lot of money. And then you have guys like Jim Rickards, a friend of mine, and he says crypto is dead. And so the reason I just love YouTube is I can crank along there, I can search. I'm looking for the other point of view. You young guys are so smart today. You're so far down the road when it comes to financial education, intelligence, but more importantly, is savvy. You're aware, where the old guys are kind of close-minded to your world. Look, you better check out this world of crypto, even if you're close-minded like the old guys. All right?
So I think that what you've got to start with is whenever you look at financial markets, especially kind of a macroeconomic standpoint, there's problems and solutions, right? And actually what ends up happening is precious metal investors and cryptocurrency investors, they actually agree on most of the problems, right? So there's no secret that, hey, look, if you print a lot of money, the currency gets devalued, right? There's no secret that there's high level of corporate debt and the federal balance sheet's out of control and all of those things. For the most part, there's agreement. So I won't spend a ton of time on that. The question then is, what do you do? Right. And I think that where there's agreement on the solutions is this idea of sound money principles. Right. And so whether it's gold, silver, or Bitcoin, they all have various aspects of sound money principles. The big question just becomes, gold has, let's say, 5,000 years of a track record. Bitcoin has 11 years. So, of course, there's going to be a hesitancy when it comes to something like Bitcoin. My kind of pitch to people is, look, the one thing that has an advantage, I think, from Bitcoin, or the most important advantage, is there's full transparency and the verifiability of Bitcoin. So you know exactly how much exists, exactly how much is being produced every day, and kind of the supply side of the supply and demand equation is known with 100% certainty. And so it's just a matter of generational divide, right? Older folks usually aren't used to kind of touching all the digital technologies. Younger people are. And so you kind of pick your asset, but they both have sound money principles. And I actually think both of them will do well coming out of this economic crisis.
So this is why I converted over to Bitcoin. This is my reason, and it was Anthony that cleared it up for me, is that at the same time that the Fed is printing trillions of dollars, Bitcoin is tightening. So Bitcoin's getting harder, and the dollar's getting softer. Would you go into more detail on that distinction?
Yeah. So if you take quantitative easing, right, that is literally the Fed printing money and flooding the market with more dollars, right? It creates a higher degree or a higher number of circulating supply of dollars. So that's quantitative easing. Now, the opposite of that, quantitative hardening or quantitative tightening, would be them actually taking dollars out of circulation, right? And so what ends up happening in Bitcoin is something that looks like quantitative hardening. So there's 21 million Bitcoin that have ever been created. Every 10 minutes in the beginning, 50 of them were distributed into the circulating supply. That programmatically was cut in half 4 years later. So after 4 years of 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, it got cut to 25. It then went for 4 more years. It then got cut to 12 and a half. And just earlier this month in May, it went from 12 and a half to 6.25. So the way to think about this is previously, earlier this year, there was 1,800 Bitcoin a day that was getting created and entered into the circulating supply. Now there's only 900. So if you think about the opposite of quantitative easing is quantitative hardening, literally you're getting an artificially capped supply that is becoming harder and harder to get on a daily basis. And so as long as demand stays the same or goes up for that asset, the US dollar value should appreciate. And so the key piece to this, again, why are young people gravitating towards this asset is, one, it's programmatic, right? Compare that to the Fed. People are betting trillions of dollars in the market on, are they going to print more? Are they not? What's the interest rate decision going to be, right? All that kind of stuff. With Bitcoin, we know with 100% certainty what's going to happen. And then the second piece is that it's programmatic, right? So nobody can go in and manipulate it. And so in a world where any TV station you turn on, everyone's arguing over what the Fed's doing, right? In this world, nobody can manipulate the market, right? There's nobody who can change that programmatic monetary supply schedule.
Fed is centralized banking. So central is also communist, command and control of a central government. That's communism. Whereas what Bitcoin, gold, and silver are, they're not controlled by anybody. So one of the reasons back in 72 when I started buying gold was because the Fed couldn't mess with it. They do mess with it to some degree, but they can't print a lot of it. And that's what I don't like about saving dollars. So explain why it's programmatic, but why I call it people's money, because there's not one person like Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, who can say today it's going to do this, tomorrow it's going to do that. It's already been planned out for years, right? Exactly how many coins are coming out.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at, let's say, the ECB board of governors, there's like 25 people that go in a room and make a decision, right? The Fed, I think it's, about 12 people go in a room and they make a decision. Yeah. And so, I've got a friend who always says there's 12 people making the decision for a minimum of 330 million people's money, right? That just kind of doesn't sit well with younger people. And so when you look at something like Bitcoin, there's computer code that was written. That computer code can only be changed if more than 50% of the people on the network agree to change it. Now, as you know, when you have millions of people who are all trying to coordinate something, nothing gets done, right? And so that code's never going to get changed. It's going to stay how it is. And if there was a change, everyone would see it happen. So you not only get
completely decentralized.
Completely decentralized.
The old guy system is centralized, and a bunch of old guys control who gets the cash, right?
Yeah, and a way to look at it is the U.S. dollar is a sovereign currency. It's backed by a nation, and every nation has their own currency, and they're all manipulating them, right? We're seeing everything across the world. Everyone's manipulating their currencies. Bitcoin is the separation of state and money. It's the first time we've seen a currency, right, outside of something like gold, right, where now all of a sudden, no single country can manipulate the monetary policy. And so what I think is going to happen over time is every currency will be digital. There'll be a digital dollar, digital euro, digital yen, won, etc. So the technology will all be the same. The competition will happen at that monetary policy level. And I personally believe that the separation of state and money will become viewed as the superior monetary policy, just as gold for many, many decades has been seen as the superior store of value because of those sound money principles.
Correct. And the point here is we're going to go to a break, but there's a whole bunch of stuff got to understand here, is that when the United States comes out with a crypto dollar, that's the question.